Hello and welcome. Andrew Peters here with episode 3 of introducing the special package for 2018. This episode is about how to link the controller to the FX Blue trade copier so that we can copy either a normal trade, a buy is a buy, or an inverted trade. A buy becomes a sell. First of all, a disclaimer. Please pause the video if you need to read this. And then a quick reminder of what the special package is all about. It's a 1-year license at just $100, which gives you a copy of the Order Trader, the Trade Manager, 2 versions of the EA controller, one based on moving average, one based on RSI, the VFX London Breakout EA modified so that it can be controlled by the EA controller. This particular bit of software, it's crucial for enabling the communication between the controller and any of these EAs, and then some set files as a way of helping people get started. And of course the user guides for the 3 main trading tools, and then these videos. Okay, so in episode 3, as I said, we're going to link the EA controller to the trade copier so that it can copy, and we'll have 2 instances of it. So one will copy the normal and the other one will copy the trades in an inverted manner, where a buy becomes a sell and a sell becomes a buy, based on how well the EA is performing, either in uptrend or in downtrend. The trade copier is from fxblue.com and it is free. It's a really great copier and has many features, more than what we need, but you may find other uses for it. And I'm going to demonstrate this using a free EA from the Donna Forex forum, where I also have a thread where we're constantly discussing the various elements of this package and how things are going and what we might and might not do. So I would encourage you to subscribe to that forum, that particular thread, to keep abreast of events on this special package. I'll provide all the links at the end of this particular video, and remember our little logo, because my whole idea about this is to let bright ideas link up. The 3 trading tools provide a host of opportunities of trading in a different manner to what you've been used to, and hopefully to make it more profitable. So to start with, we're going to need 2 MT4 platforms in this particular case, and we're going to need make sure that each platform has the trade copier and that at least one of the platforms has the free EA. So let's see how we do this. And I'll do that by going first of all to the FX Blue App Store to get the trade copier, and then I'll go to Donna Forex forum to get a copy of the EA. And we'll talk about these other aspects a little later. So if we go to the FX Blue particular link, we'll find the FX Blue trade copier, and we click on that and you'll see there's a free download. If you haven't signed up with FX Blue, you'll find a little requirement here that you need to register. Registration is totally free, but it means you are on their database and they can send you updates about any of their products. There's a whole range of useful products and they're virtually all free. You'll also find the user guide, online user guide, and you'll also get a copy of the user guide as a PDF. This is version 7.27 is the last one, and I'm going to be loading that on my 2 platforms since I've got some older copies running. But all we do is to go down to the free download and then follow all the instructions as normal from here. I'll meet you back on the other side. But just before I move to the other side, we also need to get the EA. So that's the link. I think I've just changed it to get the correct one. So if we do open the hyperlink, hopefully I'll get to the right one. And this is where Don Bon has very kindly supplied all the Donna Forex people with a EA that he's developed using Strategy Quant. It's been quite profitable for him, and we're going to use this one to set up the trade copier stuff. As you can see, it's all here, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you can download the free EA from this position here. And so this is my first platform. This one's an IC Markets. It's a demo one, but you can see here that we've got the part of the package, the different EAs, but the ones I want to focus on are the trade copier sender and the FX Blue trade copy receiver, and then this is the free EA, the strategy 1.2, which is run on the 15-minute Euro NZD chart. So first of all, therefore, we need to load the EA onto a Euro NZD chart. So let's do that. And I didn't want to do that, did I? I want to load it from here. Is it in the majors? Is it in the Forex minus? Yes, it is. And can maximize that. So that's our chart. And this is where we're going to run our free EA. So we double click, and it's all pretty straightforward. Let's allow live trading, and let's allow DLL imports. And with the inputs, as he has it, we can see that these are the settings for it. And again, I'm just using the default settings to do this trading for this example. So it's quite handy. You'll see all the activity going on here. As someone's pointed out, of course, you can always go to Tool, Options, and in the Expert Advisor, you can always allow automated trading and allow DLL imports, just in case sometimes you forget to do this. Okay, so we have the EA in place and it would now trade, but now we want to copy this trade in two different manners, and for that we're going to need the FX Blue trade copy sender, and we need to open a chart, and it can be any chart, so that we can actually place that copier on that chart. So it doesn't really matter which one you use. So let's open a chart, and so now let's set the sender on the chart. So we should now have a live trading and imports all ticked, and now we have the inputs. And this is where I would encourage you to read the manual, so to make sure you understand the use of this trade copier. But in our particular case, the main thing we need to worry about is we need to include the symbols, which should be the same as we have in the Market Watch window. We want to include the magic numbers, and I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll check that in a minute. We don't need the comments. It doesn't have pending order, so we don't need to worry about that. We want to copy, and here we have options. We can copy the fixed lot size, or we can say copy it at whatever lot size the EA has. So let's leave it at that. We don't want to multiply it. And again, you've got a variety of options here that again you could check out. Let's just assume you have read the user guide and have set these to your satisfaction. And so at the moment it's no heartbeat, but that will come in a minute. Let's just go back to Euro NZD. In H1 I actually said it should be M15, so we need to make sure that I get the M15 there. And let's just double check to see what the properties were, particularly the magic number, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's all fine. Okay, so now we've got the one version of the sender, and because the signal is going to be dependent on whether the EA is an uptrend or downtrend, I'm going to put a second copy of the copier onto this particular platform. So for that we need another chart, and we can distinguish it if you like, so we know which is which. And then we get another copy of the sender, so double click, and again we need the symbol that we want to copy, which is Euro NZD, and the magic number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, let's keep it at the one size multiplier. Okay, so now we have our senders in place, and what we need now is the controller. The controller is going to monitor the performance of this particular EA, and there are two versions of the EA controller that I've provided. One is based on a moving average, the other one is based on RSI, and just for interest sake I'm going to use this version. So when we say an RSI, all it does is it uses the RSI formula to calculate whether the momentum of the performance curve is above 50 or below 50. And so we've got all that ticked, and we go to inputs. So this is our inputs for the EA controller, and we have a choice here for selecting the mode. So if we double click, we can see there are two options: a signal mode, which is what we use when we try to control a trade manager or an EA, and a copier mode is where we control the copier. So that's the one that we want. In this case, we're not going to worry about we're not going to reverse the signal. You would enter your email address here, and here we need to enter an ID so that it knows what it's doing. So in this case, I'm going to say it's a trade copier, and it's trade copying from 1, 2, 3, 4, magic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one is going to be the normal. In other words, a buy will stay as a buy. And the strategy then is, I would like to call it normal. So that just appears, it's a reminder of what we've done. The magic number that we're monitoring is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's only one magic number, so we don't need to worry about all of those. We would prefer to, well, we have an option here. We can let it start trading at the start, or copying at start, or we can say wait till it's done its X number of trades and then see whether it should be the normal or the inverted version. So this time let's set it to false, and let's make it a history period of 5. Now we have the select RSI mode, and for an uptrend we can say the uptrend level must be 50. So in other words, we want the RSI of the performance curve to be greater than 50. And for the downtrend, we want the RSI to be less than 50. Now, we can change these numbers at any time. And so, for instance, if we had been running for a while and our RSI of the performance curve was now up at about 70, we could say, well, if it starts falling below 60, then I would like to figure that the EA is going to start losing for a while, that market conditions have changed, and therefore I would like my inverted trades to start trading from that time. But at the start, let's use 50 as the default position. And so normally once we've done that, I would click a save. I would double click that and copy, and then I would save. And these are now my copier, so it's a new folder. I would call this trade copier. And there, then I would paste and save this one in here. Okay, so that's done. We didn't enter email address. You'll get this signal, so enter email address and then you'll be fine. So that's the first, and so this is where your performance curve will start to be shown in the manner of an RSI curve, and this is for controlling the normal copying by the trade copier. And it's going to allow copying to occur when the RSI value is above 50, and it'll switch off the copying when the RSI value falls below 50. When RSI falls below 50, you want the inverse. You want the copier to start copying the inverse, and so we need another version of the controller. So we double click that. Select mode is we go for copier again, and this time we want, come on, for some reason. Okay, we actually have to put the arrow right on there, the drop down menu, and we're going to make that true. Add your email address in there, then the ID, and that's going to be trade copier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's in the language of the copier, it's invert. I normally use the word reverse, but let's stick with the language that is used by the FX Blue people. So the strategy is invert copying. It's still monitoring the same magic number, 5. We're going to wait. We're not going to start it, trade at start, or not copy at start. We're going to use period, the first 5 trades. Select the RSI mode. For the uptrend, we want it to be greater than 50. And for the downtrend, we want it to be less than 50. So that's all fine. And again, we can double click that, copy, and then we can save this into the trade copier folder. Sounds a little bit laborious, but it's very important once you start getting more and more to start saving these set files. It saves a lot of work in between. And we're okay. And you had to add the email address. So here we'll have our display of the performance of this EA over time. And if it's above the 50, if the RSI above RSI 50, the normal trade, the trades will be copied in the normal fashion. A buy will be a buy. Once the performance RSI starts falling below 50, this one will be switched off and the inverted trades will be copied. And now before we go on, of course, we have to link these two controllers to the respective trade copiers. So the first one is that one there, and if we right click and look at expert properties, we'll see this field here, a channel. And this is the channel which is used to communicate between the copier, or the sender, and the receiver, but it's also used to communicate between the controller and the sender. And so in here we need to have the trade copier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we call normal. So let's just double check that's what I put in there. And what we have to make sure is that it's that number, and I can just double check. I'll copy it. Close. I'll go back to here. Right click, Expert Advisors Property. It's this one here. I got it right, but let me just. It's so easy to make a mistake. So it's better often, rather than trying to memorize it, to physically copy and paste. So that one is now set, and again we can save that as our this was actually a controller preset. So let me just paste it here for the time being. Okay. Now we need to do the same for the other one. Expert Advisors Property, and again that's one should be TC 1 2 3 4 5, and we use the word invert. And again we can double check, copy. If we go here and to this one here, we can see that I've used the same terminology, because it's important therefore that this ID number is linked to the sender. Okay, so now we've completed the setup for our sender platform, and you would normally run this on your demo, or if you're already running a particular EA, you can add these 2 copies of the controller to that chart. That will not affect in any way the manner in which this EA is trading. It doesn't impact at all on it. But so then you could make copies using these trade copy senders to, say, a demo platform, and there you can trade it in a controlled fashion, and then over time you can compare how does this EA's performance compare to the performance when we only copy a normal trade during uptrend and we copy the inverted trade during a downtrend. So that's the purpose of getting this trade copier made compatible with the EA controller, and I need to thank the FX Blue people for making that possible by adding that feature into their trade copier. Just before I move on to the second platform, I should probably quickly show you what the difference is between the EA controller in the RSI mode and the EA controller as the moving average basis. To do that, let's go for another one. This is where I've been running a version of the London Breakout EA. This is the EA controller, the moving average version of the EA controller, and that's the performance curve, the red line. That's the close profit, and the blue line is the moving average of close profit. And you can see that's been set to period 20. And currently the profit on this particular one is $649. Measuring the performance of the same EA is the RSI version of the EA controller, and it applies the RSI formula to the close profit loss. And so here we can see for that same period 20, that RSI, which starts at the 20th trade, which happens here, has been above 50 for all that time. With this setting of 20, we can see that the EA, if I'd been using this on with the trade copier, it would have stopped copying the normal version here and then copied the inverted trade, and we would have been swung out of here, and it happened a couple of times. Therefore, I tried to give the performance curve what we call a bit of room to breathe, and so in this case I'm much more comfortable with a moving average of 30, and as you can see, in that case we only get one swing below and then back up. That's been quite profitable. If we set the RSI, we can do the same as set that to history period of 30. It will also have stayed. But now RSI can then, because it's set to period 30, can only be calculated once 30 trades have been performed, and so the comparison of the two happens at this point here. But so, as you can see, we can use either version. And if we'd used the moving average, we would have been chopped out once here, and otherwise would be fine. With RSI, it's we give the performance a bit more room to breathe, and if the momentum of the performance, in other words, we get a higher number of profitable trades, then this line of our performance curve, measured as an RSI, we should be staying above 50. So that's just to show the different versions that you can use, and you can use either or. The package, the special package, contains both a copy of the RSI version of the controller and a copy of the EA controller version. Obviously, I always like to have this version on, even if I'm not using it. I can actually set the control in such a manner that it doesn't do anything, but this way you get a nice on-chart performance graph of your particular EA. Okay, but now we need to move to our receiver platform, which I'm using a Pepperstone. And again, this is the platform upon which we'll be taking the copy trades. And so we're going to need two charts, one for each of the senders. And as you can see, I've placed the FX Blue Trade Copier sender and receiver on this platform as well. And so we need to use the receiver, and we need to have a chart. Now you can use any chart. Since we used the AUD USD for the sender, let's use it again for the receiver. And so now we place the copy of the receiver, we double click, and here we start looking at our receiver inputs. Now you can see here there's quite a few input settings, and so again I strongly encourage you to read the user guide of the FX Blue Copier to make sure that we've got everything set. We need to make sure that allow live trading and that this allow DLL imports is ticked. So we might remember that the channel that we're using for the normal was TC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the word normal. So this way now this receiver links to the copier, and the copier is linked to the controller. And now we have to do all the settings, and let me just pause a while I get myself all organized for that. Okay, so let's continue with the settings. We don't have any suffixes in our market watch window, so we don't need to worry about these ones. Ignore new entry signals. Obviously we don't want to ignore it, so we want to copy them. The permitted symbols, we might as well make sure that we restrict it to this, especially if you've got other EAs on other symbols running at the same time. We want to use both buy and sells. We're not restricting it. I mean, the EA that you're copying will have its own may have its own restrictions, but again, you can see the versatility of this FX Blue Trade Copier, that if your EAs didn't have some of these features, then you could actually use the copier to introduce them. We don't need to worry about ignoring orders, minimum set lot size. We don't want to ignore all exit signals because obviously a trade has to be closed at some stage, but if you wanted to manually close things, then you would leave that to false. Now the trade all orders at market only becomes important when we do the inverting of trades, which is here. So at the moment we can leave that at false for this one, which is the uninverted or the normal way. You can set your own slippage, etc. And again, as I said, you need to read the manual carefully to satisfy yourself and get yourself a default set of inputs that you're happy with. Instant execution, it would help to do things more quickly. In this way, when the trade is opened, it sets the take profit and stop loss rather than having that as a two-step process. Make up your mind about that. The magic number, it will pick its own based on the channel name, but since we would like to be able to monitor stuff, this is the normal version of the copied trade, so I like to use the 6 as my identifier for that, and it's 1, 1, 2, sorry, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I get this right up top? Yeah. So that will become our magic number that appears on this receiver chart. We're not inverting trades this time. We can use the original order comment, and we can see what that brings us. However, you'll notice that in the guide you'll see some comment about if you do this, then your abilities are hampered when you need to salvage it. So again, we could leave that at false because we're going to have the magic number in order to do the monitoring in any case. But we could use a custom order comment. So you could, if you wanted to, you could specify that this is the normal. We don't want to prevent these things, but again, you've got the option to. Lot sizing, again, we'd use the risk factor of 1. So if your sender sends a micro lot, then you would copy a micro lot. But you've got all these other options, and again, as I said, you can scroll down, you can set all these, but we want to be copying exactly the way that your EA is trading on your normal platform, so we wouldn't be judging it there. As I see, if you wanted to, the nice thing about the trade copier, that if you wanted to prevent your account from being blown, you could set a stop trading below an equity percentage of your account. Again, I'm going to leave all this at default. But again, I would strongly suggest that you read the manual to make sure you're familiar with how this operates. The key ones here are that we're doing this channel and that this channel identifier corresponds with the channel on the sender and on the EA controller. So we could save that as a setting, but let's now click OK. And that's fine. We've lost the broker connection, but let's not worry about this at this stage. This is more about setting things up. It's lost the broker connection because I currently have not got this platform connected to the internet. We can do a user description set, and maybe that's useful. Let's just see where that appears. Let me pause, and if you scroll down, I can find it again as a user description. and it's right down the bottom here, user description. So we could type here normal copy, and we could say this is Euro NZD, and that now appears on there, so we know what's what, and we should be fine. Now we need to set up a second receiver, and I think we use the pound USD for that. And we go back to our trade copy receiver, that's here, double click, and again we check that this is all ticked. And now the channel one's the important one. This is the channel that's linked to TC 12345 invert. And we go through and set things as before, permitted symbol. We don't ignore new entry signals. Permitted symbols. Again, it's the Euro NZD, etc. And this one, we're doing again the magic number. We're going to call them 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to click the invert trades. We're going to click to true, and then we just need to make sure. And I can show it from here. If we're inverting, this is from the user guide for the FX Blue Trade copy. If we're inverting trade direction, we've got to turn the trade all orders market parameter, turn on the trade all orders at market. So let's make sure we do that. And that you find up here. So we were at invert trades, and here you have trade all at market, and we need to set that to true because of the we're actually copying the reverse. We need to allow the comment that are here. So it means that the receiver ignores the sender's entry price because the sender is buying at the ask price, whereas the receiver will be selling at the bid price. Okay, so I think we've got all of that, but again we make sure that you have all of the others set correctly, and then which includes the user description, which was here, and we can make that reverse. Oops, sorry, we used the word invert, and it's Euro NZD. So there we have it. So that's the invert, and this was a normal copy of the Euro NZD. And so this is the setup we finish up with. On the left is our platform. In this case, I've got an IC Markets demo, but this, for instance, could be the EA that you're now trading on your live account, and you want to see whether you can improve its performance by copying two versions of this trade. One is a normal copy, and we've got the linked to the normal copy of the Euro on your second platform, and this happens while the EA is performing well and it is in an uptrend. It will appear with the RSI of the performance curve above the 50 line. When the EA starts underperforming, in other words, when the market conditions change and the EA can no longer operate properly and it's in a downtrend, we will then trigger the second copier or the second sender of the trade copier, and it will now, the receiver will then receive it as an inverted trade. So a buy becomes a sell and a sell becomes a buy. So when things are going well, we should be copying exactly the same trade as happens here. when the EA starts underperforming and goes into drawdown, this one will stop copying and it'll lock in the profits that you've made up to date. And at the same time, the inverted trades will start being copied. And if all goes to plan, you should start making money from the inverted copies, because the market has changed to such an extent that you're better off having the take profit at the stop loss value and vice versa. So we have two platforms. On one platform we have our EA plus two copies of the controller, one for when the EA is in profit and one for when the EA is in drawdown. We have our second platform onto which we're copying both normal trades when the market is favorable for the EA and copying the inverted trades when the market is unfavorable for the EA. So the sum of these two, which will happen on the same account, what you'll be doing will be to monitor the performance that you get on this platform against the performance that you get from just trading the EA in the normal way. Sorry, this has been a long video, but just to sum up, the trade copier you can get from the fxblue.com app store. The EA you can get from the Donna Forex forum with this link. So far I've got trading performance set up for the controlling the trade manager, which was video number 2, controlling the EA, which was video number 1, and you can see the accounts where I've set up the installations in this manner. And very soon there'll be a third account that you'll be able to monitor, which is the implementation that I've just shown, where we're actually going to use the controller to control the trade copier. I've also decided that you can purchase this license for $100 anytime, but it's only the license is only valid for 2018. So if you buy it now, you've almost got a full year in which to test all these products out. If you buy it later in the year, you'll have less and less time in order to test things out. So suggest you get in early, get your hands on it, and over the year you can be trialing things out. At the same time, you can follow the discussion on how all this is going from my post and what maybe other people will post if you subscribe to the Donna Forex link for the EA controller, and that's this link here. And so, thank you for watching. Sorry it's been so long. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at info@DIYForexSkills.com. And otherwise, this is Andrew Peters signing off, and thank you for watching.